Okay, we'll run straight into our next session this morning. I'd like to welcome up onto the stage to talk about the benefits of standardising AV interfaces across teaching rooms. Graeme from University of Lancaster, if you'd like to join us. Thank you.
Trying to work out where this invisible line is. Okay. So, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for last night. I really enjoyed messing up your scores. It was great fun, and I had some great conversations in the bar. What I'd like to do, I noticed I had a title slide. What I'd like to do is start with this. These are two tweets taken recently from Lancaster University's Twitter. And you'll see on the left, lecture theatre. I think this is a Cavendish lecture theatre. And on the right, a library, our library. These photos taken in the 60s, late 60s. Keep coming back to these. So, title slide. What I was going to say right at the beginning was adopting the start, set the scene, then go to the title slide, a little bit like Netflix. So, my name's Graeme Hughes from Lancaster University. I'm Head of Faculty IT for the Central IT Services. We have a converged, centralized IT services, converged AV and IT. What I'm going to talk about is our teaching rooms and standardization, not just of the interface, but of the whole room. I think there's more than just the interface. A little bit about me, two things. But this is not about me. Our story, our transformation from what you'll see in a minute are horrors to what we think is a reasonable state and to the future is a story of many, many people. Some of those people are in this room and over a long period of time. But if you want to talk to me, those are two methods to do so. I've been at Lancaster University a very long time. I was an undergraduate there. I started in 1983. I was a postgraduate there. I did my PhD there. I then had a job working for the Central IT Services, looking after transputers. Some of you may remember transputers and Occam and folding editors and all sorts of exciting things. And then I worked for the Linguistics Department doing IT support, being a technician, and worked through that, through faculties, slowly building up, looking after more and more faculties, looking after technician teams in faculties. Until I worked for the Central IT Services, and I now look after all the IT technician teams across all faculties. I also look after all the teaching spaces, not just the day-to-day maintenance, but the development of the teaching spaces or learning spaces in modern parlance. And for some reason I have some other things like, clearly my director doesn't like me because he's given me the job of centralising printing, which is a painful job, and if any of you have done that, I would really like to talk to you. Taking people's printers off their desks is suicidal. So why the Pendle Witches? Well, if you look on Wikipedia, there's a load of articles about Pendle Witches. Pendle Witches is famous in Lancaster. In 1612, Pendle Witches, 9 witches were tried and hanged in Lancaster. It's a story of feuding families, fake news, and misunderstood terminology. Many people declared themselves as witches. They were just healers in towns and villages, and many people accused people of being witches. So one of the things, but it's not on Wikipedia for some reason, is there is a curse that people who go to Lancaster, given by the Pendle Witches, you stay in Lancaster forever. And I've been cursed. Okay, my PR department won't forgive me if I don't do some of this sort of stuff. Top 10 in all the main categories. But one of the top universities, got to be careful what you say about that these days. You get sued. 100 and whatever it is, 30,000 alumni, all the standard things. It says 12,000 students on our website. I'm sure it feels a bit more than that, 12,000 students. 2 campuses, which we're associated with, and many other international partners. And of course, the usual thing, depending on whether you believe it or not, we are a TEF Gold institution. And I wanted to include that here because it is a validation, I think, of our learning spaces. Part of it is about learning spaces, so I think it is a validation of what we've done over the years. So back to these pictures. These are the 1960s. Lancaster University was built somewhere around 1965, so it's only a few years old, these pictures. That lecture theatre, I was taught in that. I think the lecturer at the front, I think I know who he is, but the one or two. When I was taught in that in the 80s, it looked like that, except worse. There was only one TV on the wall. I never ever saw it used. The brackets were empty. All the brackets were there. There was more graffiti on the desk, and there was a lot more chewing gum underneath the desk. So what am I going to do today? I'm going to take you through a journey, which is tell you a little bit about the history of where we were, show you some of the horror stories that existed at Lancaster. I hope that you don't have any of these anymore, but I have seen some institutions that do. Take you through the journey, how we went from what is some very terrible spaces, and then talk a little bit about the future. And I want to leave some time at the end, because I'd really like feedback. I'd really like to nick your ideas, anything you can do. So I wanted to leave some time at the end so we can have a discussion about some of these things. My title said something about making our users happy. The government can't measure happiness. I can't measure happiness. Hopefully at the end you'll make your own decision as to whether our users are happier or it's made our users happier. Right, some horrors. This is Bolin Lecture Theatre. You can see projector in the middle of the student seats. It's there because we got no budget. We bought the cheapest projector we could get. It's there because we couldn't buy a big projector to sit in the projection room. It's a cheap, horrible room. That's the control interface. Labels on everything. You know you've gone wrong if you have to label everything. So what you can see, a mess of switches. Some of them are old, some of them are new. That big white switch in the middle, that's the button for the projector. That's the power for the projector. Lighting controls, all sorts of things. And just at the top, you can see a mixture of remotes poking out of the top. That was what lecturers had to face. Same room. I love the idea that we've chopped a hole in this beautiful wooden lectern to insert a VHS player. We've got a computer on the top in this lovely, nice security case, all the cables sticking out the side so all the lecturers knock to them every time they walk past. There's absolutely no space on there for anybody to do anything. You can't put your notes. Even got the keyboard on top of the computer just to create enough space to do things. Different room, same period of time. Mix of furniture, mix of chairs. This is not a designer decision. This is just, they were broken and they got replaced. Blackboards. There's even a blackboard behind the PC. We've got it really sorted as to the layout of these rooms. The PC's facing the wall, the lecturer's facing the wall. You can see the seat. They face the wall. Great decision. What else? Small projector. You can see the projector. Right in front of it, just above the screen, there's a light. You can't turn that light off. You either sit in the dark or you have the lights on, and when the light's on, you can't see the projector. The projector's so small, it produced so little light that the students struggled, especially if you sat at the back, to see what was going on. Oh, and the last thing, sorry, I forgot. If you look at the projection screen, it's at a nice jaunty angle. And that indicates it was broken. And we've kludged it, because we've got no money to replace it. We're doing nothing to replace it. We've kludged it. We've probably broken it somehow. It's supposed to slide across in front of the blackboards. Doesn't do. Here's another one. Similar sort of room. Table shoved in. Nice grey cabinet with all the AV kit in it. Looks really lovely. Random, again, lecturer having to sit and face the wall. The rest of the class is behind you. And another one, OHP on wheels. They're great. Remember those? Hopefully they've all gone. Big grey cabinet, nice, delicate little cables sticking out the wall. And if you look along the white trunking, there's a button push thing with lots of sticky labels on it to indicate what to do with those buttons. All these rooms existed at Lancaster at the same time. So as a lecturer, I would go from one room with that big room with all those switches down the side to this room. I'd have to know how every room worked. It is chaos for a lecturer to understand that. This is Lancaster's leading lecture theatre. This is George Fox 1 for those from Lancaster. This is what it looked like. I don't even know where to begin to apologise for this. Yeah. And it had retractable seating and doors of death when the seating was retracted. Brilliant. So you might be thinking, ooh, that must have been in the 80s. No. If you come 8 years ago to Lancaster, I'd have taken you in there and shown you that as our premier lecture theatre. You would have been amazed. So, what do we have? Inconsistent spaces. You've seen all of those. And I haven't shown you every space because they're all different. They all had their own problems. We had bad interfaces, so you've seen the different interfaces. We had poor instruction. You could never you could go in and you could train a lecturer how to use one room, but you couldn't train them how to use every room. Our IT support staff, our AV support staff didn't know how to use every room. There were just that many different designs, that many different kludges on top of things. You could not use them. Confused support. Like many institutions, some of them even now, we had separate AV, who belonged to facilities, and IT, who belonged to the central IT services. When something went wrong, who did the lecturer call? They've got 2 telephone numbers. They call AV, AV come out, they say it's an IT problem. They call IT, IT come out, they say it's an AV problem. AV fix something that breaks IT, IT fix something that breaks AV. There were fights on the spine between the two teams. The spine's our main walkway across campus. Broken equipment, you saw that screen. There were lots of broken equipment. We kludged it. We did whatever we did. We had no budget. There was no repair mechanism, no repair processes. And there was chaotic development. So you have all these different rooms. How do you move any of them forward? You can make a change in one. You could probably add something in one, but it doesn't make a difference to the whole university. So, showing you the horrors. How do we get from there to where we are today? And I'll show you where we are today in a minute. So this is what we wanted. We wanted better furniture facilities. We wanted better audiovisual and IT facilities and IT services. A consistent interface across the whole piece. Not just what I pressed on the thing, but how they all looked, how they all worked. You walk into a room, I want to know that everything's in place, everything I expect is in that room. I want to be comfortable as I walk into that room, that I can use that room. I don't want to be faced with random differences. We needed to improve the process. We needed better training for our users. We needed a consistent set of equipment we could train the lecturers to use, but also to train our support staff. Our support staff couldn't support the equipment because it was so varied. We wanted consistent equipment, consistent documentation, so we could train our support staff. And we wanted to maintain the progress. So, needed to constantly review what we were doing. We were looking at change, looking at review, looking at change, the forever-ending cycle. And the biggest thing, funding. Not only do you need that nice big lump of capital to take you from where you are to the next step up or your next level, but you needed ongoing funding. You needed a recognition that maintaining lecture theatres, maintaining learning spaces costs money. You have to have buy-in from the university. So what did we do? Well, those spaces, they're sitting here today, looking back on those spaces, and you go, oh my God, how could we ever have put up with those? But at that time, they worked. They were okay. They didn't cost much money. Why did we need to change? Convincing people to change at that point was difficult. So, what did we do? We engaged the Dean of Teaching. He could see, he had a vision to see that these spaces, he actually taught, so he knew how bad some of these spaces were. He had a vision, and he engaged. So we're engaging at the C level within the university. He was a main driver, and this is Gavin Brown. He's now Pro VC at Liverpool University, I think. We established a teaching and learning PECS. PECS is, for those who don't know, is Project Executive. This is a group of people with faculty representation who could drive money, who could tell us what we could do, who were champions for this whole change. So next we demo the technology. We take a piece of technology, we put it in a room, we get the academic staff to have a look, we get some feedback on it. And then we agree initial funding and ongoing funding. So the first thing is, can we do a pilot? So we did. We found a building, in our case County Main, has seven seminar rooms, and we did a first pass. We kitted it out with teammates, AMX panels, touch panels. We put projectors in with electric projection screens, all sorts of things. This picture, unfortunately, is taken recently. It's not how it was, but it gives you an idea. And we took feedback. We ran this room for about a year. The main users of this room are English department and creative arts. And of course, they pushed the equipment quite heavily. We designed the user control interface. So this is our first shot. This is an AMX touch panel. You may have seen them, small 9-inch type things, or even small 6-inch cases. You can see some interesting things on here. One telephone number. You've got a single telephone number. We converged AV and IT. AV joined IT services, became converged. Our IT engineers are expected to support AV. They should go into any lecture theatre and be able to fix most problems. Our AV engineers are there as their second layer of backup. We had a big on-off reset button, ability for the lecturer to reset the whole room. So they could phone up the service desk and we could say, turn it off and back on again, and we would get somewhere. And Lancaster's all brandy. This is what the main screen looked like. Not great, but it was okay. It was a lot better than anything we'd ever had before. There's some interesting terminology that is difficult for users to understand. So at the top you've got PIP, PIP, picture-in-picture mode. Not always obvious that the user understands what that means. Right at the top in the middle, there's the mute button. The mute button has caused immense problems. When we started the test, what happened is the user would phone the service desk and say, I've got no sound, I've got no sound. Service desk would dispatch a technician would turn up. And this is where you do not mess with your technicians as a lecturer, because they will walk in, there's 200 students sat there watching a YouTube video with no sound. The technician knows exactly what's wrong. They walk in and they decide, do I like this lecturer? If they do, they walk in, they go to the front. If they do like them, they walk in, go to the front, and they pretend and they look around for a few minutes and then they get it going. If they don't, they walk straight in, press the button, walk out and pull a face facing the students so the lecturer can't see. Do not mess with your technicians. And of course, lots of technical stuff. For the user, they had to know whether they wanted 4.3 or 16.9 and all sorts of things. These things. How do we get rid of these? So what we did was we talked to the departments. We pushed them to the side of the room. You can use them. They're in the room. We're not taking them away. You can use them. Waited a little while. Then we took them away. Talked to the departments. If you want them, we'll bring them back. Just tell us when you want them. We'll bring them back. Because nobody ever bothered to tell you when they want them. One or two people who really, really kicked off when we took these out and said, OK, here's one. You carry it around. You put it wherever you want to use it. That's fine. You never saw them ever again. And of course, with slides, we offered to digitize the slides. We did things. And then with VHS, we had the same battle with VHS. You do the same thing. You move it out the room. You offer to take it in the room. When people want it, they never really did. And for the few people who really kicked off, you gave them a VHS player and showed them how to plug it in to the room if they ever needed it. And of course, we offered to digitize their videos where we could. Blackboards. There is a small part of hell which contains blackboards. We took Blackboards out. We have no Blackboards in our teaching spaces. We don't get complaints about OHPs, we don't get complaints about projectors, we don't get complaints about VHSs. We get complaints about Blackboards. Every survey you do, I can guarantee Blackboards are required. We're not putting them back, we're never going back there, but it's every survey. I can make some people happy, going back to the title. I can make a group of people happy by putting Blackboards in. We're not doing it. Why do I want Blackboards? Usually the maths department. It is the feel of the chalk as you write on the blackboard that enables you to think about your equations properly. I'm sure it does. Lovely. So what else did we do? We produced a set of standard definitions for all our rooms. We had about 5 different room types. We created standard definitions. There's a website, you can go to it, you can look it up. We give these to our AV installers. They have a very standard definition about how to create one of our rooms. We took our room booking system, we added all sorts of information. We added pictures, we've even got some 360 rotating pictures where you can look and zoom in and do things. I'm not doing that in this presentation because those sort of things always go wrong. We centralized AV and IT support. We distributed it around the campus. So Lancaster University is a single campus, large campus. We did the ambulance trick of having IT technicians placed at strategic points through the campus so that any fault would take 5 minutes maximum to get a technician to the lecture theatre. Any more than 10 minutes that a lecturer is having problems in the lecture theatre, effectively the lecture's over. Unless they do, and the good ones do, switch off from the technology and do something different. Because our rooms never go wrong. Never go wrong. We improved the training. We trained lecturers. We offered them all sorts of training because we've got these standard rooms with standard interfaces. We can do all sorts of training. Some of them come, some of them don't. It's always difficult to make them do. We offered one-to-one training for them. We improved our training on all our technicians. They knew what to expect in all the rooms. They were given a set of tools to deal with most problems that they would encounter in the rooms. And we created these things called emergency kits. As you can see, it's just a bag with a wheel, and it's got a lecture theatre in a bag. It's got a projector, a laptop, some speakers, loads of cables, all the bits and pieces. So if we know there's a lecture that has gone wrong, the technician goes with that bag. We can recreate a working lecture theatre. So we've gone through all these things. What I've missed off this, and I don't know why I missed it off, because it is the most important thing, is securing ongoing funding. Then what do? We seek feedback and repeat. We go and talk to the departments, go and talk to the academics, go and talk to the students in various groups, get their feedback. So at the moment, this is what we run: 34 lecture theatres, 56 seminars, 75 meeting rooms, a whole bunch of other things. And this is what one of our smaller rooms looks like today. Actually, it's got bottles. Don't usually have bottles of water for the lecturers. There was an event going on in there, so we provide it for events. What does our interface look like today? There you are. We have a room name. Room name actually says what room it is. But half the lecturers don't know which room they're in when they phone you up. So we put a room name on there. We've got rid of the telephone number because they didn't actually look at the telephone number. You lost the front screen. So it's now on a poster on the wall. They found that better. This is what it looks like now. Still got the mute button. We still have some mute problems. And I'll move on a little bit quickly. And we try and address some of the technology. And a number of other features, lecture capture, Blu-ray, HDMI, VDI, whiteboards. Everybody wants whiteboards everywhere. I really don't understand it, because in large lecture theatres, you can't see the whiteboard from the back. What are the issues? High utilisation. Why is high utilisation an issue? Surely that's what you want, and we do. We do want high utilisation. So what it meant was, because the rooms are all standard, we could pack the rooms. Booking means you can't get in to repair them, other than outside normal hours. But it also means the university can reduce the number of rooms you've got. Now you've got a problem. When one room goes wrong, you haven't got any spare rooms for people to go to. You also haven't got... you also haven't got the space to play an experiment. If I want to take a lecture theatre out and do something different, I'm causing room bookings major headaches. So we struggle to move on. We've got issues with mobile devices. How do we deal with mobile devices? People want to walk in with Android, Apple, and all sorts of things and display them on the screen. It's great. We're trying to do it. We think we've come across one or two solutions and now do it really well, and we're doing that. Flexibility. These spaces are standardized. They're not flexible. They have to be the same. Whatever lecturer walks in, we can't do flexibility. And they lack personalization and personality. Great that they're standard, but then they're some of the most boring rooms. I won't talk about this too much, but Lancaster doesn't have an IT strategy. It has a digital vision, and that is part of what is driving us. Right at the bottom of here, student union reports. Every year the student union writes a report to the university. What did they say this year? Rooms are really digital. We really like them. Your lecturers aren't. We have a serious fluency problem, and I suspect it's the same across all sectors. You've got different styles of learning coming. So, very quick flip through the future. Collaboration rooms. This is a collaboration room at Lancaster University, and we've got a couple of these. Again, we don't have many because these are specialist rooms. Not many lecturers want to use them, so we're trying to increase our size of our space, which runs counter to the university's move of reducing our space and maximising our utilisation. Really like some of these. I like this one, Loughborough, if there's anybody from Loughborough. But put one of these in your lecture theatre, you reduce the capacity at least 30%, usually 50%. Room bookings have a problem at Lancaster because they don't have enough big rooms to move people in. I'd like some of these. We'll probably get some in the next year. Here's another example for an extra. Again, nice. Group works. So the lecturer stands at the front and you've got group work going on. What else do they want? They want high quality video production. They want everything coming back to a central point as editing it. We need, I think, media services developing courses. If a lecturer comes along and says, I want to do a MOOC, we throw a team at them. Content developers, designers, etc. If they come along and say, I want to deliver a lecture, they'll go, okay, you write the content. They haven't got that skill set. Nobody has that skill set to produce an all singing, all dancing lecture that the students want and expect these days. So looking at ways of trying to develop a team that goes in and help lecturers rewrite their on-site things. AV over IP technology, moving away from it, AV having its own connectors and pushing it over our normal network so you can have a screen appear anywhere on campus. New technology, some universities are already quite a way on with this. Whiteboards, mobile displays, new learning tech. Last one, automatic room automation, which sounds a bit weird. That's a VC statement. The VC came along a couple of weeks ago and said, well, you know what I'd really like? I'd like to walk into a lecture theatre and go, lecture theatre, I want to deliver my talk. And the answer, if your VC asks, the answer is, yes, VC, we can do that. Can I have twice the budget? Please don't ask for any less. Otherwise, they'll talk to my VC and he'll shout at me. Bringing in external campuses. So I mentioned we've got 2 external campuses. Trying to bring them in, make them part of our thing. So this is what a room looks like today. You know that one with that little projector right at the front, sat in the seats. This is what it looks like today. It works. It's standardized. It's great. It's boring. No colour. There's a lot of theory about putting splashes of colour for education purposes. We want colour in there. Lots of hard surfaces. The acoustics meet British standards. We need to do better than that. There's lots of theories about the quality of hearing and learning. Everything's white, standardized, everything's white. This is a cinema. This is used by you don't have white cinemas. That's mental. But there you go, we do. What we've got is sort. Digital fluency for our academics. Sort or course development. Understanding the requirements of change. One quick last thing. Liminal learning spaces. I only learned this word a couple of weeks ago. Learning spaces is occupying, the definition is occupying a position at both sides of a boundary or threshold. Usually liminals refers to mental states as you transition from one mental state to another. But people are talking about liminal learning spaces. It's a transition space, and that's foyers, these sort of spaces. Corridors, that's an American university. So back to, going too far. How How did it look? How did it look today? There you go. It's up to you to decide whether it's any better. How does our library look? Radically different. That's what it looks today. And of course, in a library, you have lots of different spaces. Thank you very much. I'd really like your feedback. If you've got any feedback, any ideas, any questions.
I was just asking, I've got the telephone number in the teaching room still for AVIT number. But what do you do if the states take all the telephone numbers out of the room?
All the telephones out of the room? Yes, we have no telephones in our rooms. We rely on academics having a mobile device, or quite often they use the student's mobile. They get a student to phone.
Just for me, because it's just that class
Yeah.
between the states. No.
Absolutely. So we took phones out because we had this ridiculous recharge of every phone we had to pay a monthly fee of about £15. So you scale that up just to have the phone in the room. So you scale that up. That's multiple thousands of pounds every year just to have a phone in there for 1 or 2 uses a year. So we've had to take them out. We could go back. We've got a different phone system and a different way. We're now VoIP phones and we can do it. But yeah, we could do it.
Do you work with estates to plan upgrades, or is it very much you do your thing and they do theirs?
We work very closely with our estates department. We meet with them almost weekly now. We work on a lot of new buildings with them. They've got much better in involving us right at the beginning of a build planning process. It used to be that we got involved in stage 4, which is pretty much once you've got the design done and things, and they go, here's the rooms, put the AV in, and we go, can't do it. And they come up with, oh, and you've only got £20,000 to do it. And it's a 50 seminar room thing. So we work a lot closer with them. We've built up relationships over the years with them. They now understand us. We now understand them. We have a rolling program of replacement. We have annual money to replace all our rooms. We work with estates to understand what their rolling program, because they do the physical infrastructure, and we match the two programs. So we do spend a lot of time working with estates. Not very well. I've started to have to pay some of my staff overtime to work late. A lot of the time they don't want the overtime money. They want the time off. They want the break because they work quite hard during the week. So I can offer them hours back, but that means I don't have the technicians. I have actually started buying in support from outside just to do small jobs, just to cover the fact. I'm sure it's true of many universities. It's much easier to get capital than it is to get money for pay for staff. So I use some of our capital, which I shouldn't do probably, to pay for people to come in and support rooms. But it is difficult, and it's getting worse because we're now getting events in, so we're not getting in even in the evenings. I don't have a good solution.
Any more? We allow plenty of time for questions. I think one of the...
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely understand that. What we actually have is workshops, ITAV workshops, dotted around campus. So they're not actually sat in a coffee bar waiting for a call to go. They're actually workshops. Well, we took a decision of making all the technicians work in particular areas of the university. So they got to know the people in that area, and they supported that area. Although I can, because we've got standardisation across, I can move the technicians around. So if I have people off sick, I can move them from one workshop to another, or if I've got an event or a large amount of work. So we have workshops. While they're in the workshop, they're expected to do day-to-day stuff, upgrade to Windows 10, fix normal desktop machines and bits and pieces. And then it's up to the lead technician to manage their time and organisation. Quite often what they do is they set up rotas. So somebody works in the workshop, somebody's doing upgrades and things, and somebody else is being the on-call person. So they know for that week they're the one going out. And obviously if we get multiple calls, then we go back and we use whoever's sat in the workshop on their workshop day and things. So we try and create a process where everybody knows what their role is that week. We have people dedicated to doing the support and going out and doing the support, and we don't schedule critical other works for them. No, we don't. I'm not sure that we would particularly want to do that. It's a sort of hostage to fortune. Our aim is to be there within 5 minutes, and our aim is not to have lectures fail. I think our measure is, if a lecture's failed, we failed. So we try and reduce that and don't commit to any particular fixed time.
How much remote management do you do? Because if the problem was mute, then there's two obvious solutions. One, when you press the button volume, it cancels the mute. And the other one is to remotely turn off the
Right.
mute, or see what they're trying to do remotely, see if you can fix it.
Absolutely. Our service desk, we've done a lot of work with the service desk. The service desk now understand a lot of the general issues that might come along, so they can talk the user through on the phone doing the mute. Annoys the technicians because they now can't go and hassle the lecturer.
When I said remote management,
Yeah,
then being able to see on their screen
Yeah.
what the lecturer
Yeah,
is on.
it's not something that we've done. We have tools that monitor what's going on in the lecture theatre. We have tools that monitor whether the projector's working, etc., etc. But at the moment we don't. We could, but we don't log into the lecture theatre and use it. We don't have cameras in the lecture theatres watching the lecturers. I know some universities use cameras to see what the lecturer's doing, and they're on the phone and going, could you press that button? No, could you press that button? Yeah, I can see what you're doing. Can you press that button? We don't have that. Our lecturers would push back hard on us. But we could do things like log into the panels and do control like that, but we don't at the moment. It's a development we ought to do.
One more question.
Easy one, back to phones. We took all our phones away, and all that happened was the lecturer would go out to the receptionist, and the phone call would come, there's a problem, no more information. How do you get people to phone through our lecture theatre? Or do they just do it?
They just started doing it. They started using their mobile phones. Quite often our lecture theatres are not near departments and not near receptionists and things, so they'd have a big walk if they had to go anywhere. So they started doing it. We do have the problem, and we have the problem of the lecturer phoning their departmental officer to phone us, and you get exactly that. We don't know where it is. It is a problem. I don't have a solution for it.
Sorry, one last question. I saw one hand go up at the same time.
We employ students to do checks, and they have a checklist they go through. They're trained to fix minor things, clean up Coke cans and other bits and pieces that get abandoned in the rooms. And we also have some of our AV technicians go round first thing in the morning, and they turn projectors on, so at 9 o'clock the lecturer walks in and the projector's up and running and live, and they do some basic checks. We do more deep checks at the end of every term and go round and do a full survey of rooms. And we obviously look at our remote management system about what's going on in the rooms and things. But we do rely heavily on students. And there's some pluses and minuses to relying on students to do checklists and things.
Perfect. Graeme, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we've got 10 minutes for a lightning strike.